Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition, and we're going to talk about, are there any adventurers in IRL in America today? All right, so let's jump into this. So, we, 5th Edition Dungeon Masters, 5th Edition Dungeon players, we understand the term adventurer better than the hoi polloi. By the way, I love that term hoi polloi, but I'm very sensitive to, like, am I using an offensive term? I don't want to offend people. I definitely don't want to offend specific people. I definitely go hard in the paint at specific communities or at types of people, but I don't want to offend a specific person, right? So is hoi polloi? So let's get this out, because I think I'm going to start using the term hoi polloi. It's helpful, right? But I want to make sure it's useful, right? So hoi polloi is simply Greek for the many. It just means the larger group, right? So the hoi polloi, right? So we, Dungeon Masters and Dungeon Players, 5th Edition Dungeon Masters, 5th Edition Dungeon Players, we have a better understanding of the term adventure than hoi polloi. And we have a somewhat intimate relationship with the word adventure, right? So I think a lot about Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition. I think about it deeply, right? And I realize I'm coming to the understanding that what happens at the table is the least important part, right? It's actually the most enjoyable part of playing Dungeons & Dragons. But I really weep and feel very sorry for people who are unaffected by their D&D game when the game ends, right? I don't forget it, right? Like I'm an adventurer from 6 to 10 p.m. every Sunday night. And the moment I wake up at 9 a.m. moment my day starts at 9 a.m. on a Monday morning, I'm like, am I an adventurer in my life? It's a deep, deep question, right? And so I'm going to answer that question for you. And then we're going to talk about what I think does represent a very IRL adventure that still exists in the U.S., in the United States of America right now. An emerging group of adventurers, incredibly important, right? So here's the question: am I an adventurer? Well, at first I thought, no, Scott, you're not an adventurer. But then I found, and the reason why is, what is an adventure? An adventurer is someone who goes to great risks, right? They explore, they interact, and they come back to gain treasure, right? To gain treasure. That's what an adventure is, all right? And if you think that adventure is something different, come at me in the comments below. I'd love to hear your definition, right? But that's mine. So and so I was wondering, and I'm like, hey, Scott, do you explore, interact, and combat to gain treasure, right? And so first of all, of course, for all dungeon masters and dungeon players today, the term combat is a virtual combat, a combat of ourselves, our own deficiencies, right? So, we don't do any real combat, right? Now, there are actually, there are some people who simulate it, but I don't think that really counts, right? All right. So, and the other thing is, when they're doing exploring, interacting, and combating, they're taking risks, very real risks. They can die from the exploration, they can die from interaction, they can die from combat. Every single one of them can kill them, right? So the first thing is, like, Scott, do you have any risk in your life, right? You can't be an adventurer if you don't have any risk in your life, right? And at first I was thinking, no, my life is incredibly safe and I have no actual risk in my life. But I realized that's not true, all right? So I have a hierarchy in my life. It's the following: my Christianity, my dedication to my family, my work. Dungeons & Dragons is only the fourth thing in my life. People are like, you love Dungeons & Dragons too much, Scott. It's literally the fourth thing in my life. Like, it's not even the top three. It doesn't even make podium, right? Like, I don't understand what you people are talking about, right? So I feel like I do have the right prioritization on Dungeons & Dragons, and I'm not telling anybody to put it at the top of their list, right? I'm just saying it should be incredibly important in your life, right? So I would say the fifth most important thing in my life, right, is bicycling. I love to bicycle, and I will admit, bicycling started from Dungeons & Dragons. I realized I had no exploration in my life, and I started around 2014. I've been doing it, actually, maybe it was earlier than that, maybe like 2012, right? So it might have come from 4th edition. So, but I realized, I have no mount, I have no steed, right? And I got a bicycle, and I ride all over Philadelphia like crazy on the weekends. I'm a bit of a weekend warrior at it, right? And I've explored, Philadelphia top to bottom. I absolutely love it. It's really exciting, and I've explored it, and I've interacted with the people there, right? And I combat my ignorance of what my wealth class. I go to areas that have less money than me. I go to areas that have more money than me, right? Like, so it's all three things, right? And I ride in the city, in the streets, right? Now, one of the things I do is I put on my Google Maps, and it takes me on the flattest roads that have bike paths. So the vast majority of my bicycling is done in a dedicated bike path but I also often I'll have to get right behind a car and take the space of a car. When you ride in the city, you have to do that, and there's some significant risk, right? Because I haul, right? Like, I really move around Philadelphia a lot, right? It's a big part of my life. I love it, and I'm like, yeah, that's I ride it pretty aggressively, right? Like, so there's some risk there. There's just no two ways about it. And it comes from, I was a skateboarder when I was a kid. And so I just really enjoy riding, right, in the city, all over as fast as I possibly can, and obeying all the street laws, right? And so, so that is a real risk I take, and I do it for exploration, right? The other one is this channel. I'll tell you right now. I'm just giving you a warning. A few of you out there are just commenters, and I would love for everybody. I'm always like, hey, just get on your own channel and comment to me in a video. But I will tell you right now, be very careful before you proceed into public statement, right? The moment you publicly state anything, you become a target, right? You become a target for a whole host of people. And I've reached a point where I'm totally okay with people insulting me. That happens literally every single day. People are like, you're stupid, you're crazy, you're XYZ. That's a Tuesday. I don't care about that. But I'm going to warn you, people will involve your family, and that's very real risk, right? And it is very, like, people will insult your family and say horrible things about your family, and it's hard. It hurts to see it, and it hurts to hear it, and there's risk. So that's one of the things. Like, and why do I do this, right? Well, one of the things is I think this is an incredibly powerful platform. YouTube says, hey, you got something to say it, right? Tell the world, right? And I want to encourage others to do this. And I'm a husband and a father, right? And I have kids. And I'm telling you right now, I think one of the most dangerous things to do in today's world is not be seen, not be heard, and not be able to speak publicly, right? And so, one of the things I'm doing is just showing my kids, in today's world, you got to be heard at the global scale. You really do. If you're going to make a difference, you've got to, right? So it's one of the other things, just one of the reasons why. So I think the more I thought about it, I'm like, I do have risk in my life. I think I am an adventurer, right? And actually, I'll pose the question to you. Do you think those things get me to the point where I am an adventurer and I am taking the inspiration of Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition to be an IRL adventurer, okay? I think I've made that hurdle, right? But you may not, and I'm willing to hear you out on that. Or you can say, yeah, Scott, you do take some risks. You're an adventurer. Like, you can call yourself an IRL Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition adventurer, inspired to real-world adventures by Dungeons & Dragons, right? And I think that's an important part of it. So let's talk about dyed-in-the-wool, very legit IRL adventures in America today, right? Because it exists, and I just saw it. And we should all be inspired, in my opinion. Whoo! Let's get to it. All right, check this out. In America today, right now, this just started, there are super dope Americans who are living in areas in the Midwest and the West who are like, last year, the forest attacked my land. The forest attacked my home. This year, I shall defeat nature. I am buying a surplus fire truck and handling my own fire safety. That is the most baller adventure, American thing I have ever heard in my life. That is an IRL dragon slayer, right? Like, they're like a red dragon, the red dragon of nature, burnt all the forests around my land, burnt my wheat, and burnt my home. This year I shall slay it. Here is my surplus fire truck. I'm like, wow. So the question of, are there IRL adventures today in America, is heck to the yes. Boy, oh boy, are there real IRL adventures. You're like, yeah, I could call the fire department, but I'm going to do it myself. I got that truck over there. It's filled with water, and me and my family or my best buds are going to just spray that red dragon of nature into the dirt. Like, that is so, like, IRL adventure, like, that it is, like, I was like, am I Scott Garibay, an IRL adventurer? And, like, I'm meekly peeking behind the few risks I have in my life. These people are like, I will beat back the fires of nature itself. Like, that is the most IRL adventure, like, the statement I have ever heard, and I am so here for it. I, like, applaud to every single super dope Midwest and Western American who is buying a surplus fire truck, filling it with water, and waiting for the flames to come. I'm like, that is just the dopest, coolest thing I have ever heard. And if we have Dragon Slayers today, boy, oh boy, are those people it. All that's my opinion. What do you think? Also, do you see any IRL adventures in your lives? Right? Do you live near an IRL adventure, a person who is exploring, interacting, and combating in a virtual way things in their lives that make them an IRL adventurer? And when you, as not as the hoi polloi, but as the special group that is Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition Dungeon Masters and 5th Edition Dungeons & Dragons players, right? Do you see any people who really live that explore, interact, combat, value that Dungeons & Dragons established for us? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.